MTN SME Hub. Link to growth, link to success, link to the ultimate resource for business advice and insights.
Welcome back to the Big Small Business Show. And in studio with us, we've got Melissa and Ayanda, who are the co-founders of AfroFuture Tech. And the question that I've been asked to discuss is revenue or profit. And this is a common question that many entrepreneurs have in the early stage of their business. And you know, in your other businesses, I think they're quite mature industries and they're mature businesses, and the question's not really there. It would be quite obvious that you want to pursue profit. But when there's a business that's in a certain niche, and it sounds like you found a niche, you want to close the door on that niche as quickly as possible. So you're chasing the revenue to try and close the niche. Okay. So I'm going to answer that in a couple of ways first. So the big issue now, and you would have experienced it here, but maybe you haven't lensed it or you haven't labeled it. So I'm going to label the issues around growth. And one of the big issues around growth is complexity. So you and I are speaking 1, 2, we bring you in, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We bring a fourth person in at 16, 25, 36. So as you add more and more people into an organization, complexity is exponential, not linear.
Correct.
Now you add the additional complexity of 3 businesses instead of 1 business. Okay, so there's an additional level of complexity in it. So my concern, if I from an outside and just from a system perspective, if I was saying, well, the complexity is not just complex, you've got another level of complexity that is adding exponential. You now speaking, you running the business, you being co-opted into this. It's a very complex system. So before growth, before you even think about growth, you need to think about managing complexity, simplifying, creating the rules around certain things. So there's a lot more simplicity. It's not just around being efficient and cutting the costs. That's like an obvious place to look. The lens I want you to apply to the business is, how do we reduce the complexity? Okay, and so anticipate a business double or triple its size, and think about the level of complexity and the demands on both of you in that environment as well, and what it would do to your other business as well. So whether you're going to sell that other business and move in, that's a reduction of complexity, and vice versa, the two of you. The highest form of simplifying this is goodbye to the others. We're both in this, and it's the most simple form of what it is right now. But I'm not saying that's what you must do. I'm just showing you that simplifies things. So you have to think about places to simplify and rules, and that's why I asked you, do you know what the percentage is? Because the more rules you have that you've agreed upon, the simpler the discussions happen, the simpler things happen. So I want to bring that through. The second thing is management costs. As businesses grow, there's a misnomer around this concept of economies of scale. Generally, in South African context, economies of scale only happen in a manufacturing environment and at real scale. What you're going to find is that you've got Carol, but then you're going to have Carol the second and Carol the third and Carol the fourth. And they are not economic production houses. In other words, they're not selling, they're producing. Okay? Right? They produce, they don't sell. So they become cost. So, and then, of course, then there's layers and there's hierarchy, and that becomes more and more cost. And you would have experienced this in your businesses as well, that as it grows, there's more and more costs associated with that. And when you get another person, it's another office, which is more space, which is more rent, which is more insurance, which is more another computer, etc. So management cost is the second thing that you need to think about. And so now I'm going to say the opposite of what I've said. Is if you've got extra capacity in management there and extra capacity in management there, it might help the middle business in terms of saving on management costs in the center. So but then the apportionment of that and getting the rules around how to apportion that and the rules around that, because your manager might cost twice as much as her manager, and it's just saying, I'm not paying that. So once again, that's a complexity. Simplify it and say, this is how we attribute management into that business if we are blending additional capacity into the central business. Okay.
Okay, interesting.
Right. Then I think that the third thing is I've got here is the concept of variable and fixed costs, which I think you've got in essence. I think it sounds like you've got that concept right on in the fact that you think in a project-based environment right now. I'm going to try and answer the question directly. I don't want to sound like a politician. It depends, right? Okay. I would say that you need to pursue revenue if revenue is smooth.
Okay.
Okay. Profit. Okay. And your margin is flat. All right. Here, revenue. You pursue profit if revenue is chunky, i.e. you project-based and you go for profit because you try and make as much margin per project. But if revenue is smooth, that's why I started off there. What's your revenue like? Because if your revenue is smooth, there's predictability. Yeah. If there's predictability, I know I can get that manager because I've got these, even if it's long-term contracts or multiple contracts, or there is no single concentration risk like you have in that you spoke about in the business right now. So it might be that you start off now with a profit incentive, make as much profit as you can, try and build up the client base to get it smooth. But you need the combination. Your profit must be smooth, but your margin must be smooth as well. It must be flat, because if your business is going up but your margin is decreasing, then the answer is don't pursue revenue, because at some point you're going to lose. And I've seen this now with many businesses as they grow, they actually land up making a loss because their pricing isn't right, their margin isn't right, and what worked for a small business doesn't work for a larger business, right? So that's in a nutshell, that's the answer. Profit if revenue is chunky, which it sounds like it is right now. You get to it where it's smooth, and if it's smooth, then go for revenue, and then make sure your margins are flat or declining or increasing. Right. And then that, ladies, is the answer to the question, revenue or profit.
Thank you.
Okay. So who's revenue? Who's profit? I'm not going to answer. Okay.
No comment.
Well, I hope that helped you. I hope that helped you too. If you are sitting in that position right now where you're growing and deciding whether you need to pursue growth at the cost of profit to get market share, well, the answer was in the show you just had. That's it for today's show. Do remember, if you think it, write it down and make it a reality.
The Big Small Business Show, proudly sponsored by MTN Business.